Hello, Netroots. Woo. Hello, Netroots Nation. How are you all? Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. I just want to take a moment to affirm the activists and organizers who were just up here. As my sister Ayanna Pressley likes to say, the people closest to the pain should be closest to the power. So I want to thank and affirm those who are pointing, because social movements should be the North Star of our politics. They should be pointing the way, so thank you. If it looks like I'm tired, I am. If it looks like I have no makeup on, I don't. If this is the 5th time you've seen me in this dress, deal with it. My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I am an educator, I am an organizer, and I am a working class New Yorker. I am also the Democratic nominee for Congress in New York's 14th Congressional District. New York 14 covers the Bronx, Queens, and Rikers Island. While it seems like ages ago, we just won that primary 5 weeks ago. Sometimes I have to remind folks of that. I have spent the last 2 years of my life knocking on doors constantly and consistently, talking to people closest to that pain, talking to working class Americans, talking to the people of this nation. Folks think that New York 14, the Bronx and Queens is a clear cut. They have an idea in their mind of what New York 14 is. But New York 14 is actually, I believe, after knocking all these doors, is a cross-section of the nation. It is both densely urban, but there are also suburban and even parts that look rural in New York 14. You wouldn't believe it, but there are. Parts far away from public transit. There are some areas in New York 14 that voted for Donald Trump. There are areas of New York 14 that look like a cross-section of the nation. And after spending the last 2 years knocking doors, I think we've learned a lot of things. And one of the things that we learned, especially in our win, after being outspent 10-1, after not being endorsed by a single elected official in New York State or New York City or establishment organization, and that's fine, is the thing that we need to realize. That is fine. That's not a big deal. We can come together after these things. But it's that we're not gonna beat big money with more big money. We're gonna beat big money with big organizing. I think there's been a lot of debate over here, at least I've heard there's been a lot of debate. I just came in from California earlier today, and before that, I was in Michigan campaigning for Abdul El-Sayed, Fayrouz Saad, Rashida Tlaib, David Benak, Rob Davidson, all candidates who refuse to take corporate money. All candidates who believe we need to end the war on drugs. All candidates who believe tuition-free college is the future, that Medicare for all is the future, that an aggressive action on climate change is the future, because that is the future. Because that is the future. I believe that sometimes we make some mistakes, that we have this idea in our brain of what a swing voter is. But after spending this time in the Midwest, after talking to folks constantly, I think we realize that swing voters don't vote for the person who's moderate enough, the person who is most timid, the person who backs down from their starting point. That is not who the swing voter votes for. The swing voter votes for authenticity. The swing voter votes for the person they think is championing them the most. The swing voter votes for a person who thinks that puts them first. And the swing voter, as was mentioned earlier, as I've been saying on the campaign trail, is not just red to blue, it's non-voter to voter. That's our swing voter. It's no mistake, it is no secret that over the last 10 years, we've lost a lot of seats in this country. We've lost a lot of state assembly seats, city councils, gubernatorialships, mayoralships. We've lost the House, the Senate, and the presidency. But that's all right, because it's always darkest before dawn. It's always darkest before dawn. Every time we knock on a door is a ray of sunlight. Every time we pick up a phone, it is contributing to that light. And right now, we need a burst between now and November. We have a lot of organizing that we need to do. But I think that sometimes the greatest success on the other end is the fact that they have won while clinging tighter and tighter to their base while convincing us to stray from ours. We need to realize the consciousness of the Democratic Party, I believe. And I believe that it's time to come home. I think it's time for us to come home. It's time to remember that universal college education, trade school, a federal jobs guarantee, exploration of a universal basic income were not all proposed in 2016. They were proposed in 1940 by the President of the United States, by the Democratic President of the United States. These are not new ideas. We are picking up where we last left off, when we were last most powerful, when we were our last greatest. The Democratic Party, it's time to own that our party was the one of the Great Society, of the New Deal, of the Civil Rights Act. That's our party. That's who we are. And it's time for us to come home. Because when working people realize that we are fighting for them the most, they will fight for us too. That is what we have shown. So I think that when we realize, again, that it was the Democratic Party that established coast-to-coast electricity, the interstate highway system, and the women's right to choose, when we own that and accept that, then we will realize that we are fighting for the majority of this nation, and the majority of this nation will fight for us. That is how democracy works. So I think that one of the things that we realized as well, going in the Midwest, we were out there with, again, Abdul El-Sayed. We went out to Grand Rapids, conservative area of Michigan, where Betsy DeVos is from. And we announced that we would host that rally, and about 600 people RSVP'd to it. And over 1,000 people showed up in a cramped, sweaty high school in the middle of Grand Rapids. We went to Flint. Another 500 people showed up. We went to Detroit, another 1,000. We went to Ypsilanti, another 100. We had to hold another rally outside. Something is happening in this nation. Something is happening in this country, and we can embrace it. We can win on it, and we can realize that we can appeal to our highest selves, not our lowest selves. We can say that a Muslim man can be the first governor, that can be the first Muslim governor in this country, in the Midwest, and we don't have to be afraid of some other that won't vote for him, because we know that 10 years ago they voted for a man named Barack Hussein Obama. We have been here before. We have been here before. And, when we realize that, again, there is nothing radical about moral clarity in this nation, that is not us that's going off, but it is how far this country has strayed, and we're here to bring us home. That's what our voice should be here to do. So I want to thank you all. And again, I know that there's some debate here, and that's all right. We can embrace that. Discourse is not discord. Discourse is not discord. Family can argue, and that's all right, because we come out healthier on the other end. I may have some different beliefs of other Democrats. I happen to believe that an agency that has repeatedly, systematically, and violently committed human rights abuses cannot be reformed. That's what I believe. Not under this administration, especially. And it's time that we take that tool away. Time that we take that tool away. Not just ICE, but our system of mass incarceration too. It's time that we realize that cannot be separated. Those issues cannot be separated from a dignified and living wage for people to come home to and reintegrate into their society. That is not separated from the ability to extend tuition-free college to all, to reinvest in communities that have historically been redlined, because the success of our most vulnerable is the success of the nation. How we treat Flint is how we treat America. They don't want us to connect the dots. When I won, they said, stay home. They said, keep it in the Bronx, is what they said. But we know better than that. It's funny, a couple years ago, it seems like eons before 2016 sometimes. But it wasn't too long ago that the New York Times had an article that said, it's inappropriate to compare, quote, it's inappropriate to compare Manhattan to Brooklyn. What's more appropriate is to connect it to Rust Belt cities. It was the New York Times that said that. And they provided a list. Some of the cities that they said to compare it to were Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Detroit, because the plight of working class Americans is the same everywhere. And we know that. We know that the future of this party, if we are to win again, is to rediscover our soul, is to come home and to realize that we can fight for social, economic, and racial justice for working class Americans. And to fight for that is to fight for all of us. It's time to realize that we are the party of King, of Roosevelt, of the ones who went to the moon, who electrified this nation, who accomplished the greatest successes and crown jewels of our society. We created Medicare, we created Social Security, and we created the economic and scientific basis of our greatest achievements. We can own that. We can own it. So I just want to thank you all, and to know that, again, the way that we do this is when we all go home, recommit ourselves, and there is no district too red for us to flip. Thank you very much.